This week, the U.S. hit an important milestone. Half of the adult population in this country is now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Yes, we are beating the virus, but on this Memorial Day weekend, the country is far from healthy. Throughout the pandemic, we've suffered from a serious case of herd stupidity as the far right waged a war against science and in some cases against the scientists, like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who put his finger on a big part of the problem that we're seeing right now.
This is a war. So if you're going to fight a war, you better start shooting at the enemy instead of at each other. I'm nervous about the intensity of the divisiveness in the country right now.
Nervous about the intensity of the divisiveness. Dr. Anthony Fauci battled a pandemic that's killed nearly 600,000 Americans. In return, he has received death threats so severe that he required security for himself and his family. Thanks to people like Fauci, it is safer to go outside. But hold on. 9 people were killed in San Jose, California this past week, the 232nd mass shooting in 2021, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Sometimes children are the victims. Other times it's coworkers, people shot in classrooms, at birthday parties. We can't fix the problem because the U.S. appears to be hopelessly divided on the issue. The president called this embarrassing, and it is.
Every single day, there's a mass shooting in the United States if you count all those who were killed out on the streets of our cities and our rural areas. It's a national embarrassment and must come to an end.
We also face an outbreak of hatred. Reported hate crimes against Asian Americans are up in the largest U.S. cities. And the Anti-Defamation League has received reports of hundreds of incidents of anti-Semitism this month alone. Consider what one rabbi told me last weekend.
This is not simply an era of polarization. This is an era of fanaticism. And the right wing has moved to the point, the extreme right, that it now is akin to fascism. We need to do more, and it is time to act, not just speak.
Memorial Day should be a time to come together, to remember those who died fighting for this nation's ideals. Yet American democracy is at risk as the big lie is still dividing the country. According to some recent polling, a majority of Republicans believe Donald Trump is the true president right now. A separate poll found that 1/4 of Republicans, 23%, agree with the conspiracy theories linked to the QAnon movement. The man who unleashed this era of unhinged thinking, former President Donald Trump, is now being shielded by his party. The Senate GOP blocked an independent commission that would have investigated the insurrection at the Capitol and his role in stoking it. Some in the GOP sound as if the rebellion hasn't ended.
We have a Second Amendment in this country, and I think we have an obligation to use it. The Second Amendment is about maintaining within the citizenry the ability to maintain an armed rebellion against the government if that becomes necessary. I hope it never does.
He hopes it never does. Armed rebellion. Yes, he said armed rebellion. Matt Gaetz and his partner in slime, Marjorie Taylor Greene, have been traveling the country inciting their crowds. Greene compared mask-wearing requirements to the Holocaust and likened Democrats to Nazis.
You know, Nazis were the National Socialist Party, just like the Democrats are now a National Socialist Party.
That doesn't make any sense. It's shameful. But there was a time when the world called on America to fight the real Nazis. And I can't help but think about one of the most memorable places I visited as a White House reporter, Normandy, France. Those are my pictures you're looking at, where you can see row after row of American graves, marking the nearly 10,000 brave heroes who are buried there. I'll never forget what I witnessed one evening in Normandy. I was at a restaurant and I came across this veteran of the war. Gathered around him were all of these folks listening to his stories about the war, about what he and his friends went through on the beaches of Normandy to defeat the Nazis. And I can't help but think, what would that gentleman and his friends think of us right now? Would they be proud of us? What would the greatest generation that defeated the Nazis think of seeing swarms of domestic terrorists invading our capital to overturn the results of an election? And what would they think of the cowardice on display this week in the Senate? On this Memorial Day, what would the greatest generation think of us? Are we the worst generation? What would the greatest generation tell us about the peril, the danger, and looking the other way when the forces of fanaticism are on the rise? And they are on the rise in America. So yes, it looks like we are well on our way to beating COVID. But my fear this Memorial Day weekend is that we just might beat ourselves.